to hold or own property, engage in business transactions if they want to, liabilities, including tax liabilities, if you want to. Only if you get involved in those things that requires you to have tax liabilities. Remember, that's only going to come from corporate stocks and franchises, all right, as well as assumed creditorship, including secured party status. So he's saying that your express trust could create a secured party status. All right, you could become a secured party through your express trust. You could become a secured party through your express trust. You could become a secured party through your express trust. All right. It says the corpus is the body of the trust. So you can call it res, you can call it corpus, you can call it the principal, but this res is the body of the trust. Property being held in trust for the beneficiaries, the very subject matter of the declaration. I'm going to take this little piece of gold and I'm going to place it into trust for my beneficiaries. I'm not going to assume any minimum contacts, and so therefore the subject matter of the declaration of my trust is this piece of gold, or is this subject matter, this body of the trust, to be distributed or to be invested for the beneficiaries. You don't have to spend the trust property. You can invest it. You can protect it. It could be this video right here. It could be my obligation of the trust is to take this video and spread it far and wide, to go and to speak in every one of the 50 states of the Union. It could be my obligation of this trust to go and speak before you guys, my beneficiaries. I can name every single one of you guys who watched this. In fact, let's do that. Let's create a very simple private express trust right now. All of you guys who are watching this video, you will all be the beneficiaries of this trust, and we'll call this video right here the declaration. I'm sorry, the body of the trust, and we'll make it real simple. It is my obligation to do everything I can in my power that I find is necessary and proper, which could be anything as long as I don't hurt anybody. That anything I deem is necessary and proper to effectuate this trust, it's my obligation to go all across the world to everyone who's seen this video and do my best to come there in person, or I'm sorry, in my physical body if I can, and explain this in further detail. Okay? It is my obligation to you guys, the beneficiaries, to do everything I can to utilize this trust to go across the world and show up in any of the 50 states of the Union without any authorization outside of this declaration of this trust. I don't need any driver's license. I don't need anything to come to you guys, the beneficiaries, and be able to present this subject matter, this education. This education can be the subject matter, the body of this trust. See what I'm saying, you guys? It could be anything. That's why when you get into it, you'll find that a trust could be molded into whatever shape you want it to be. Okay, let me go on, you guys. It can be noted that virtually anything, now that thing is the res, we'll see down below, may be held in trust. However, there are certain things which, given their innate traits recognized in law, make for better subject matter, so to speak. And what he means by that is he'll show you that gold as an example, what they call portable land. Gold is called portable land because it comes from the land, and we're taking this gold and we're placing it. It's not God. God created this gold. The governments didn't create this gold, but it's recognized as portable land. So we create this private express trust. We place this little piece of gold in the center of it and call it the res, the body of the trust, the thing, if you will. Remember, things are in rem jurisdiction. They're res. You can't, but the courts will never gain in rem jurisdiction over your trust if you don't have minimum contacts that are causing you to get involved in their jurisdiction. Let's continue. Initially, the legal minds who perfected the express trust in America did so to accommodate for the great obstacles in procuring special charters for corporations intended to deal in real estate, which trusts eventually came to be known as the Massachusetts Land Trusts. It was when those individuals came to realize the immense benefits of employing the trust for the purpose of holding land that they eventually expanded their utility, the express trust utility, to include the holding of personal property. So eventually, first it was real estate, and then it became I'm sorry, first it was for holding land, and then it became expanded to include holding a personal property because it was found that that the courts upheld these trusts so well that personal property was placed into it, and they became known as the Massachusetts Electric Companies because that was then eventually created out of trusts. It's unbelievable when you start to read the history of these things, and then, of course they want to do away with these trusts in the public's knowledge as soon as possible because the amount of freedoms that were involved with these trusts that were being found. These trustees could go from state to state and not be held down by the statutory regulations of each state. Literally, your express trust was your guiding force and your authority to go from state to state of the union and not be held down by these corporate statutory laws. For real. Let's continue. As an aside, when considering the presently hostile official attitude toward non-statutory trusts, what is interesting to note is that much of the express trust's perfection is attributed to Attorney General and later United States Secretary of State Richard Olney. And apologize. This is uh, this is what number 27 is referring to as far as a see, it says, see, John, a serious declaration of trust as express, um, as effective substitutions for incorporation. It says, only served as Attorney General from 1893 to 1895, the U.S. Secretary of State in 1895 to 1897, and prior to that in the Massachusetts House of Representatives in 1874. So remember, the Massachusetts Land Trust or the Massachusetts Business Trust were the first examples, and the Attorney General, the U.S. Secretary of State, only he, Richard Olney, was responsible for helping to perfect it. So it's he. Carlton Weiss is saying it's kind of funny when considering the presently hostile attitude towards the non-statutory trust that it was actually the Attorney General and later United States Secretary of State Richard Olney that helped perfect it. All right, let's continue. He says, but the fact that the express trusts were initially primarily utilized for purposes of holding and handling real estate is very significant, especially to our present situation. It says the significance derives in pertinent part from the integral relationship between the law and the land, right? So what do they call the Constitution? The law of the land, as opposed to maritime and admiralty, which is the law of the sea. All right. So it is a fundamental principle of law that the land and the law go hand in hand. And in America, without the 14th Amendment, the law of the land is the Constitution with its common law principles and its substance of gold and silver. Referred to in this sense, precious metals are regarded in law as portable land. It is a fundamental principle of law that the land and the law go hand in hand. And in America, without the 14th Amendment, the law of the land is the Constitution with its common law principles. So if we could find ourselves back to that, then we'll go beyond the 14th Amendment, right? That's where we want to go. You want to get back to the root. You don't want to find yourself going further and further into these guys, these legislators' world. You want to find yourself back to the root of things.
Okay. So, a couple things that I wanted to add to that. So, if y'all are working on your trust business accounts, make sure you don't want to get checking. We don't want to write any checks because the goal should be to work towards your secure line of credit. So, just open a trust account. The goal is also to start using cash as minimal as possible. So if you have credit cards, you really want to use your credit card, and I'm gonna tell you why. If you're okay, tax evasion and tax avoidance, two separate things, two totally different things. Tax evasion is I know I've already incurred taxes and I don't want to pay them. Tax avoidance means I'm gonna avoid incurring any taxes at all costs. That's totally legal. Tax evasion, not legal. So that's what the goal is. So that's why we want to have a trust business account. Want to have that in place. You can have your personal account, but you want to be using your business account. You want to be using the trust business account because you want to eventually have your secure line of credit. So you don't want to be taking money out. You want to leave as much money in as possible. Okay. So yeah, if you have a credit card, you want to put your trust down as an authorized user. My estate is in trust, but that's that's the in-depth step. We'll get there. Let me see.
I'm saying? I ain't going to non-profits, all those other things, all right? Now listen, you are automatically put in position as a sole proprietor, whatever you fuck you want to call it, okay? Okay? You are an
You're
independent
welcome, Carissa.
contractor, okay? Every private American has the right to contract, okay? Look at the concepts of independence.
Let me pause
Now,
here.
independent contractor. Now, think
One
about the
more
term
thing
individual, person.
about
You see what I'm saying?
trust. You can open your if you have already you already have your trust and it's finished, complete. You got your declaratory, your declaration page. You got everything together. You can go and use just your declaration page and put it on record also. Take your trust EIN and your trust documents and go on to the bank. Okay?
See, these terminologies are put in plain use for business, but then again, the structure of business is based on how you operate it.
Y'all can even put your
Because if
businesses
you are a
in
C
your
corp or
trust.
a S corp, and you are a sole proprietor, depending on if you're operating from a business law perspective, which is all business, or you operating to knowing that everything is a loss, you report all these instruments, the 1099s,
Time
W4s,
to eat,
W2s,
y'all.
all those things on your income, which is the 1040, because that stands for the sole proprietorship as in business, and they will kick you your return or refund due to the nature of the loss you experience through your
They will
transactional
ask,
standpoint. You see what I'm
but if
saying?
you
This is
do
the
you have
quote
your
I'm reading from.
EIN,
This is what it
you
teaches you
tell them
about, but they
that
don't
you
teach
have
you.
an
It just tells you
EIN
about that.
and you're
It
trying
just
to
tells you the tax
separate
concept.
things,
You gotta do your
not
homework.
combine them.
Exactly. Exactly. So now the fact that all these people not knowing their position as a sole proprietor, or rather playing their
And
position
technically, your
correctly, to
it's
even
gonna
get
say
a
that in the
return or a
account.
refund, whether
What
it's a
bank
small
is
pension
this?
or not, you ain't doing this correctly because you only half-ass reported, and these tax advocates only giving you half-ass info. You see what I'm saying? Because they only know policies and not law. See, I out here just giving gifts away. Gifts. Giving that shit away. Because they've been set up and designed and created to do this purposely, whether do these motherfucking agents know it or not.
A local bank. I'm not sure about that.
So now the structure of you knowing that every time
I
that you
dealt
spend
with
cash, that's a loss. Every instrument you sign
I
when it
deal
comes
with a
to a
local
blank
bank and
endorsement without protecting your rights,
well
that's a loss.
it's a credit union,
Why do you
so
think businesses have the advantage of writing off, if not 100% of their expenses and wages? Because if the business is made for profit, they're gonna lose expeditiously. They're gonna lose a lot on the back end because none of this should have any value. Okay? So in the concept of what I'm trying to explain to you guys, y'all just out here filling shit out, but not putting these concepts together because nobody's reading the law.
I don't know. Do y'all have Bank of America?
They got you acting as sole proprietors
Bank of
and,
America is good.
giving
I
your
dealt with
property away and
them.
all this other bullshit
Truist,
through eminent
I
domain and
think
just
that's how
giving
you
your
say
shit
their
away
name.
voluntarily.
I dealt
That way
with
they don't have to
them.
report
And
it.
State
And
and
they
Place
also a
Credit Union,
non-profit
I
organization.
dealt with
So
them.
it's a different standpoint of what they got to report because this is a charitable contribution that's been given to their institution. Not only that, but they're the custodians of these accounts that you're
And
signing
see, if you
on
use your
behalf
social,
of their allegiance that you not knowing that you acting on
that's gonna
behalf
be
of.
combined
So y'all
with your
doing business all
personal
types
account
of
if you have
wrong.
one.
Okay? This is our
And
tax
this is
law,
a
Title
business
26.
trust.
It tells you
You
that if you
don't
don't
want it.
understand the game of taxes, you can go read about trust administration and how all these companies and institutions are
Combined
really
with your
trust on the
personal
back end.
account.
You see what I'm saying? You understand that UCC covers all commercial principles and all contracting because that's private law. And then accounting covers everything in that standpoint because this is all accounting, or rather, accounting governs tax law,
Let
taxes
me ask
covers trust,
somebody else.
and trust governs the UCC.
I'll get you an answer, Carissa.
So now that y'all's not realizing you operating as a sole proprietor, or you haven't set up as a limited liability corporation with your ends legis, or you haven't decided what type of business you want, because the ends legis is its own government, its own agency, its own bank, its own motherfucking nation. It's all that a motherfucking one, depends on how large or grand scale you think or you go about this shit. This is why everybody wants your motherfucking social. This is why everybody wants your social. Nigga, you can't get an account without signing something or giving up your social. And if they don't get your social, they got your signature. Fire. Fire, Django. Fire. You been reading? The Privacy Act. Soldier, the Privacy Act. The Privacy Act tells you that. Title 5. So now that y'all realizing that y'all been doing business wrong, now you can figure out what type of business you want to do, how the hell you want to live your life, you know what I'm saying? How you want to operate. Now you go about it a different structure. Now you realize since every transaction is dealing with taxes, and then every transaction also has a tax in it, whether it's a gift, estate, you know what I'm saying, a incurrence tax, layover tax, all this other shit, you know what I'm saying, a general, a skipping tax, all this other crazy ass shit when it comes to the concept of taxes, because they tax you just for about anything and everything. When you know how to wipe out the tax liability because you've been given a credit for these particular purposes, then you don't know what you're doing. So y'all need to stop filling out these 1099As or these 1099Cs, these 1099Ss, these 1099Bs, these 1099 INTs, these 1099 OIDs. Do not fill them out until you read the instructions, until you read the words that you're not familiar with, until you figure out the definitions. Then you can really use them, because you know why I can say you can use them? Because the companies are not using the IRS forms. They're using their own forms. And since you're not addressing them with the IRS forms, they're going to use their own forms to address the IRS. You see what I'm saying? Because it's their own financial institution. You forgot, businesses can create their own instruments. So depending on how that business is structured, they can create their own instrument. And they created an instrument to let the IRS know that you, my friend, you know what I'm saying, left the account abandoned or having correspondence of that nature. So what does that tell you? To learn the IRS forms correctly and properly, that way you can enforce them. You see what I'm saying? You gotta read to recognize your rights to receive remedy. That's the 5 R's, but I call that the 3 R's. Read your rights to recognize remedy. Exactly, soldier. They do. That's why it's an issue, soldier. There's no short time doing it. This is a walk. This is a walk. This is a walk of life. A walk of life. A walk of life, because you signed the contract before you came to this world. You signed a contract before you came to this place, this earth. You signed a contract before you came out your mama's vagina.
Government and upon the individuality and intelligence of the citizen. The state does not claim to control one's conduct due to others, leaving one the sole judge as to all that affects oneself. Miller versus Kansas. The claim and exercise of a constitutional right cannot be converted into a crime. Miranda versus Arizona. Where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. Cooper versus Aaron. No state legislator or executive or judicial officer can war against the Constitution without violating his undertaking to support it. D. Gibbons versus Ogun. Persons are not subjects of commerce, and not being imported goods, they do not fall within the meaning founded upon the Constitution of a power given to Congress to regulate commerce and the prohibition of the states for imposing a duty on imported goods. Penhallow versus Dorns. Administrators define governments distinctly. Governments are corporations. Inasmuch as every government is an artificial person, an abstraction, a creature of the mind only, a government can deal only with artificial persons. The imaginary, having no reality or substance, cannot create or attain parity with the real. Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. No state shall convert a liberty into a privilege, license it, and attach a fee to it. Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham. If the state converts a liberty into a privilege, the citizen can engage in the right with impunity. Owens versus City. The state is prohibited from violating substantive rights, and it cannot do by one power, for example, police power, that which is, for example, prohibited expressly to any other such power, for example, taxation/eminent domain, as a matter of law. U.S. and UT versus Daniels, nor indirectly that which is prohibited to it directly. Fairbanks versus U.S. Hofsummer versus Hayes. The courts are not bound by an officer's interpretation of the law under which he presumes to act. Rodney Dale. Class versus North Carolina Department of Transportation. Police Department is not an agency of the state. Owen versus Independence. Officers of the court have no immunity when violating a constitutional right from liability, for they are deemed to know law. Sapp versus Tallahassee. It is not the duty of the police to protect you. Their job is to protect the corporation and arrest code breakers. Michigan versus Duke. State police power extends only to immediate threats to public safety, health, welfare.
I'm lost. So the bank has to pay him Jermaine for the car.
Okay,
correct?
yeah, I got that part, but that's what it's called.
All right, so here we go right here. A surety bond. Let's look at it.
So that was the special deposit, basically.
A surety bond is a contract between three parties. the principal, you, the surety, and
Me.
the obligee. The one in which the surety financially guarantees to an obligee that the principal will act in accordance with the terms established by the bond. Remember, we already know that, right? The principal, the
It's
obligee,
me.
the person who receives the surety, and the third party. So they are required to. It's funny because you never heard this before, and this is what I had to say to him. I said, "Have you ever heard a judge telling a plaintiff to pay a surety bond? Why would the
Never.
plaintiff have to pay a surety?
Never.
Exactly. I
I've been in
said,
court a lot of times.
and the surety bond, and the surety bond, remember, guarantees performance, right? Didn't we when we co-sign these promissory notes, we're guaranteeing the estate will pay or perform. We thought it was pay, but perform. So they making them give a surety bond to guarantee his performance. If he doesn't perform, they keep their $14,000. If he does perform, give them the car, he gets the $14,000.
Oh, so that's what that means. So wait a minute. So he gets to keep the car and the money, or he gave the car back and got the
No.
He gets to keep the car, and they get the
and
gold.
the money.
Basically,
Girl,
if
if
they
you
were,
say and the money one more time.
Confuse your friends.
So basically, if the plaintiff puts the surety up, and he wants to return the car to them, they pay him the $14,000.
Right.
If not, then with the court keeps the $14,000.
No, then they keep it.
Okay, the plaintiff.
Right.
Okay.
But then he keeps the car.
Right.
So they have to give him the
Okay.
title and everything, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They have to give him the title, but he still got to wait 30 days before the because they can still appeal and all of that stuff.
The city of Chicago, and people can brush this under the rug if they want to, but this is a Supreme Court case. No state government entity has the power to allow or deny passage on the highways, byways, or waterways, transporting its vehicles and personal property for either recreation or business, but by being subject only to local regulation, i.e. safety, caution, traffic lights, speed limits, etc. Travel is not a privilege requiring licensing, vehicle registration, or forced insurances. Now, when I get done rendering this video right here, because we are on a
little bit, I don't understand how the 1871 U.S. corporation has been able to make money off of each of us, why our names are in capital letters on our birth certificates, and how they've been able to make money on us.
So with the Organic Act that was passed by Congress through Ulysses S. Grant, the 18th president, they incorporated the U.S. and made it a corporation under a subsidiary corporation under the Crown Corporation, which is the is known as the British Admiralty law. The Crown Corporation is the Crown of England and all of its subsidiaries. We became a subsidiary of the Crown of England, or what they call the Crown Corporation. It's also called the Virginia Company in this country. And Trump signed the ledger. I did that as a decode where he walked in front of the Queen, and then he sat at the banquet in front of the chair of the King. And then he went to Westminster Abbey and signed the Virginia ledger, taking back that, and then put us back into the United States, not in caps, for these United States under the original Constitution. But how that Organic Act works is it makes the U.S. a corporation, and so everything under the corporation is a commodity or a property. Commodities are things that property doesn't move. A commodity can be moved around, and things like cars and people, which is your birth certificate, is your title and deed, just like the car. And then that's registered in block. So if you look at your social security number, the first three numbers are the district, The second two numbers are in your social security number or your block. And so that's the block that's traded on the original stock market, not the common market. The common market was created by the stock market crash, in which they created a common market for the commodities to think they were trading in anything. In other words, us, the common people. So they created the common market. So the blue chip stock is in their hands completely. And so these big corporations and these big families trade us as commodity blocks. And so you're registered and part of the block, and it's literally like blockchain. You're traded in blocks, in chains, and then the 4-digit number is your, there are blocks of up to 9,999 people per block. That's why there's 4 digits at the end, and so that's your ID number in your block. And then that block is traded and bought and sold on the blue chip stock market for value. And so the app actually shows you your value in the stock market, the blue chip stock market, and you have a value and a price that you're work up or work down based on your value in the system from the time you're born. And they create what's called the straw man. That's why the Wizard of Oz, the straw man, which is, of course, the scarecrow who has no brain. They look at us as stupid and ignorant and can't figure any of this out. And then you had the industrial, which is the Tin Man. And then you had the military, which is the army, which had no courage, which is the lion. And then you had the gold road, which is the gold bricks that are coming out of Emerald City. So they're taking all the gold away from us. The Emerald City is, of course, the fake green notes with the man behind the curtain that's running the whole show. The whole thing is surrounded by poppy fields that's symbolizing the drug addictions through big pharma that they do. So they keep us all stupid and addicted to all of their products. This is how they look at it. So if you go back to the Wizard of Oz, in every single scene, you'll see satanic symbols. It's completely disclosing how they do what they do.
One more thing before I go eat, y'all. Don't worry about W-4 sandwiches. If y'all want the IRS to audit any company, use IRS Form 8300 or 211, 3449, any of those. You can tell them to audit the company on those forms. You can tell them anything on those forms. You could ask them anything on those forms. Some of y'all worried about the right thing, but the wrong thing. You think that these remittances / bills, you think that you need to deal with these corporations to get them satisfied. You don't. Do a video. You know what? Yeah. Thank y'all for hitting the like button. I'll do a more in-depth video on the 8300. You can tell them a lot of things on the 8300 and 211, 34, 49, 39, 49. I think that one is. Use them. Focus on them. Go look at the instructions for them. Because a lot of what I see y'all asking, begging these indentured trustees to talk to y'all, call y'all back, process y'all stuff, y'all could feel that 3949. Thank you. 3949. Y'all could tell the IRS those things on that form. And again, you can ask the IRS anything. Some of y'all, listen closely, y'all should be asking the IRS. If you know, like if you got a car and you know these contracts are full of fraud, you put down payments down, you gave them all types of negotiable instruments, and what happened to them? Why do y'all still even owe for cars? As many instruments have y'all have gave them already and money. Why do y'all still owe for cars? Because y'all talking to those corporations still. They never gonna admit to fraud. Never are they gonna admit to fraud. Never. Most of y'all can't even get the indentured trustee to call you back or whatever. Anyway, look up the instruction. Carissa gave y'all one of the forms. Look at the 211. Look at the 8300. Carissa gave you two of the forms down there in the comments. Look at the instructions for those forms, y'all. I promise y'all those forms will help y'all. But let me go eat and I'm going to come back. I might do an in-depth instruction on at least two of those forms. But it don't really matter what you put on the forms. And quit thinking you need to fill out every block. Just tell them what you do know. Tell them what you do know that happened. They respond right away. Is that the one that you get some of the money? You can get the money, the 211? Yeah, so use those. She put all three of them. Look at Carissa's last comments, y'all. Those are the three forms. I got a response. See? She got a response within 2 weeks. Use those forms. And anything you don't know, you can ask a question. One more thing, you can ask a question and damn, what was I gonna say? You can ask a question. Or you can tell them anything in those forms. Oh, and if you don't know how, like we told y'all, the 1040 is the wrong tax form to even be filling out. We're never supposed to be filling out the 1040 at all. So if you don't understand the right forms that you're supposed to be filling out, you can put your name on that form, put it in a manila envelope, and send it to the address on there with a note telling them that you don't know how to fill it out. That's why they're there too. They're the IRS. They created those forms. Tell them I don't know how to fill this out, but this and this happened, and I do believe this is the correct form. I don't know why. I do know why. I do know why, because they want you to feel like they want you to be afraid of the IRS because the IRS is really your friend. When you understand how the IRS, how they play into this thing, you will understand that they are your friend. The IRS will help you. Okay, I'll be back, y'all. Any more questions before I go? Okay, I'll be back, y'all.